I was actually like full body frozen and I started shaking, but I could not make a noise. That is how completely out of body experience shocked I was. Welcome back to the Answer the Call podcast. It's just me today, Kelsey Kemp, here to, from the title probably, as you guessed, share a personal testimony of my 2-year fertility or infertility journey, as well as my miracle and what God taught me through the process. I'll just get right to it. After 21 months of waiting, you would have already heard this if you listened to our end of year review episode. But after 21 months of waiting, which is a little under 2 years, I am now 15 weeks pregnant with my baby girl. And I am just so overcome with gratitude every single day. Think, wow, I'm just so excited to meet my baby and so grateful that God is moving me from, I guess, maiden to mother. And I yet did have had a lot of gratitude in the way that God decided to write my story. So obviously this is a Christian career coaching podcast where we help Christians discern what they feel called to do vocationally and then practically land that job or start that business. But since we're in the presence of believers, I thought, maybe some of y'all might really care and be encouraged as I was by people who, even though I follow them for different reasons, like a good number of business podcasts that I listen to, decided to kind of interrupt their regularly scheduled programming to talk about more personal things, about the other things that they feel called to, like parenthood and motherhood. So I just really hope that this encourages some of you guys, especially since y'all might be waiting for your own pregnancy or worried that maybe one day you'll go through infertility. Maybe you have a friend who is going through it. And either way, you're just caring about your career as a means to provide for your children as maybe a more primary vocation. So I'm hoping that this is still in service to you as an episode. But as you might expect, I think God just I would jokingly say this, though I think that there's a lot of subtext. Like while I was going through infertility, I would say like, oh, don't worry, like God loves infertility stories. I know because he like pulls stuff out of the hat and it glorifies him so much in the end. And like when he decides for something to be easy, when he decides for something to be a hope deferred, it's good in his plans. And yet it could still be hard. So I just wanted to talk about that and share what it was like getting to this point. By the way, I'm probably not, I'm probably more like maybe 19 or 20 weeks pregnant by the time this is released. We're going to maybe release it in the future, not quite sure of when. But yeah, so if you're doing the math, my baby is, Lord willing, going to come sometime in June. With birth months, it's more like, a birth month rather than a due date because she'll come when she comes. So, yeah, I wanted to share just a few points of what uh, you'll get from this episode is I'll share the journey of God changing my heart towards having kids because I wasn't always ready to be a baby making machine. I would say that's normal, but maybe it's not. I don't know. I wanted to talk about God completely changing my heart in a miraculous way. After I got married, I definitely felt like I had an encounter with God that changed things a lot for me. And he just really redeemed my mind from some worldly thinking that I was buying into. I'll talk about the journey to conceiving, the random things I tried and what worked versus what didn't. I would love to hopefully save some moms to be some money and heartache out there because it's amazing. Whenever you want to date or whenever you want to get married, Instagram will show you all these ads for things that you need to buy or rings or whatever. And when you're getting married, it's like, oh, they'll show you all these crazy ads that kind of tug on your heartstrings for that season. And when I was trying to conceive, my goodness, the algorithm knows, and it just is really easy to think maybe I should buy the fertility herbal brews, and maybe that is the reason I'm not getting pregnant. And so I would love to share some things, some funny things that I tried that I was like, I don't know, I'll try anything, versus what was a total waste of money and what actually worked and what I would advise um, to the close friends of my life. And maybe that'll apply to you, maybe it won't. And then I'll share things that helped me enjoy my waiting season, which, by the way, I want to honor all sorts of timelines and experiences that you might be having. So you might think 21 months or around 2 years is nothing. You might be like, girl, I've been waiting 15 years. I, people close to me that they've been waiting 10 years plus. And they still had kids, or they had been, I should say, past tense. The kids are amazing, doing so well now. And you also might be having a really hard time with this being your second cycle of not conceiving. So there's not really, it's not super. Like, I'm not trying, I just want to say that regardless of if you think compared to my story, it's been a long time or a little time for you, I just want to honor there's a lot of different ways to feel about this, and there's a lot of different ways for fertility to go down. So whatever you categorize as a waiting season, I'll just share from my humble experience what helped me enjoy those 21 cycles where I was wondering, like, is this happening or is this not? Is it ever going to happen? And hopefully that could also help you if you are in various other kinds of waiting seasons, like the job seekers that I support through our coaching program. But lastly, I'll share some spicy, unsolicited advice that you are welcome to ignore. But I just feel like, wow, God, I just learned so many things and became like very um, yeah, God really changed my heart through this journey. So I want to share some things. And then I'll lastly share my maternity leave plan and the future of the cult career. So maybe I'll just get into it. And I want to thank you in advance for just allowing this to be a more like from the heart chatty episode. I want to just like, yeah, like I said, share from the heart. So, um, first off, I guess, like, how did I get to the point of wanting to try to conceive? I would say I used to have like a what I would now call like a pretty worldly view of when do I want kids? Like, I don't want them to disrupt my life and my career. And how many do I want? What genders do I want? And now I laugh at that because God just changed my heart so much that my answer, um, and when people ask me, how many do you want? When do you want them? Especially as someone who has gone through infertility, like the arrogance that it takes to be like, what children do you want to mail order from the big guy upstairs? I'm like, I don't resonate with that question at all. And I really do experience new life as just a total gift from God. I even saw a YouTube video. I can't remember what the channel name is, like really confusing. It's like Kyrgyzstan or something like that. They do very in-depth animated videos on educational topics, and I watched one before I conceived on how crazy it is that one sperm would even make it to the egg and the egg would implant. And I, there's so many miracles that need to happen to before you meet your baby that it is just, if you aren't aware of that and you think, oh, I could just get a baby whenever I want or conceive whenever I want at whatever age that I want under whatever circumstances, um you don't yet have an appreciation for like how complicated it is and how many mechanisms need to go right. And so when I learned more about that, I just truly believed any kid that is conceived is like meant to be here. meant to be here, designed by God, no matter what. And so, anyway, I didn't always have this view. And I even in my earlier 20s, I went through like an interesting phase of being a vegan for 5 years. And um, as I went deeper into, like, I had reasons for doing that I think are perfectly fine. And I believed like that was a way that I could love God and steward creation well, and steward my dominion over creation well. But ultimately, I felt like it led, like, if you're in the vegan community for long enough, it gets pretty like anti human and antinatal. Um, in the sense that like I started to believe along with a common narrative that like it's irresponsible to bring kids in the world, not just because like of what some people cite as, oh, it's such a hard world, I can't imagine like bringing a child into this to inflict this life upon them. And I'm like, bro, who hurt you? I would not want any being that God intended to be here to miss the opportunity to interact with their creator in this life and the next. And no matter if there is hardship here, then also it's like irresponsible to bring life into the world, I once thought, because of the burden it places on creation. Like I thought about how much waste and how many like animals would die and whatever. And this was just like a very like early 20s silly me way of thinking, which I apologize for referring it to it in that way if you are still thinking that way. But I really came to realize like, oh wow, I snapped out of that and realized my desire to love and steward the planet well has led me to a theology or ideology in which I disregard actually the first part of that set of verses that I'm loosely referring to in Genesis chapter 1. It actually starts with be fruitful and multiply, increase in number. He's talking about childbirth. What? Yeah, it's so crazy. So just to say, like, I didn't have like pink hair and the nose ring and all that, but I did not always, I was not always in my trad wife era, if you know what I mean. It's so funny. Wow. As a 32-year-old now, and I'm sure like when I'm 42, I'm going to chuckle similarly, especially when I'm like, Lord willing, 72, chuckle at all the things that I've thought throughout my life. But there sure are phases of learning. Even past that, once I started to reject that ideology, and I mean, on the meat eating front, realize that after Genesis chapter 9, we are given the animals to eat. And furthermore, there's things in Romans chapter 14, I believe, and other verses that we could point to say, like, just be thankful for all the food that God gives us. But as I went on in my like, let's fast forward to later 20s, it really wasn't until I got married, to be perfectly honest, at 30 years old. I had just turned 30. um I still was having conversations with my husband, or soon to be husband, about like, when do you want kids? And I knew that I didn't want to wait long because I don't want to be arrogant about like how many more fertile years I have left. Um, but I was like, maybe let's just like wait 6 or 12 months to just enjoy marriage or whatever. And yet, what changed everything was actually getting married. And as we were on our honeymoon, I just had this like encounter with God that's like hard. The Catholics in my life are very much like, Kelsey, you were in Rome, you were in the Holy City, like God was doing something, come over to our side of the aisle. And I'm like, you know what? Fair. Like I have learned so much from um, Catholic theology of the body, which theology of the body is actually a book, a collection of teachings from John Paul II that I highly recommend people explore. There are abridged versions that can help you understand it, but just all to say, like, I started to get exposed by God, like through podcasts and people that are talking about this, to an invitation to actually have a view of like reproductive sex that comes from the Bible and comes from God rather than comes from culture. And I felt so convicted. I should link the video that like really, really changed my mind on this in the description. I'll have to find it because that was, I guess, 2 years ago now. And uh, it really, really shook me that um, in the Protestant, I guess, tradition that I've been in my whole life, there I have not ever been exposed to pastors or teaching. This might not be your story, and praise God if that is the case, and if your pastoral teams have presented a biblical way of thinking about fertility for you to discuss with your spouse. But it was always just you do you. Um, always you do you, and not a biblical reason for that. Like, can't cite a verse or none. And once I learned about all of that, basically, long story short, I just radically all of a sudden had a very strong conviction about birth control. And so I my husband and I immediately stopped uh, using the barrier method. Um, Luckily, I wasn't on a hormonal birth control because I was not willing for some of the side effects that can come along with that. Um, but yeah, immediately stopped, started practicing total oneness and being open to the miracle of life. And I was not emotionally ready to be I didn't feel like, I'm sure God could have made me ready at any point. Um, but I didn't feel like I really was like, I want to be pregnant. Honestly, the first couple months of our marriage, um, I was like neutral slash relieved when I didn't get pregnant. And so, I mean, that is kind of one of the things that helps me to dip into a later section about like what helped me enjoy my waiting season is I do think it really helped me to start being open to putting my fertility in God's hands and being open to life before I felt like super gung ho, because I think um, it forced me into a posture of trusting that no matter how I feel right now, oh, I just might not have the grace yet for what he will give me and equip me with when I'm pregnant. And so if you don't feel ready right now, but you want to be open, if you like look into further resources and pray about it and have a conviction from God about being open to the miracle of life and making your union with your spouse unitive and procreative when you come together. Um, I think that it was comforting to me to be like, uh, if it happens, the Lord will prepare me for that and it'll be okay. Um, and yet, I think that it just like honestly took a couple months off of this feeling like it took forever because I was willing for it to take longer. But after about a year or 6 months to a year of no baby yet, I was like, wait, I did start to develop like a sadness over like, am I broken? Um, am I barren? So I really was so grateful to my friends that recommended me to a certain doctor in Austin, Texas, where I live. That really helped them. And again, I didn't plan this or anything, but it happened to be a Catholic doctor, like throughout my care. And like, even when ultimately I had to go into a surgery, like he prayed over me. And it really was, I believe, just like completely, this whole story, just completely like a miracle from God. And by the way, I'm not soft launching an announcement about me being Catholic. I am probably closest aligned to at this moment, despite I am continuing to study church history and like always just open to whatever God speaks next. But I'm more like Reformed Baptist, probably, even though I go to a Presbyterian church, but it's not always perfect. So, yeah, I apologize for y'all are probably like, I came for your fertility journey, question mark. I didn't expect all of this, but that was like part of the thoughts and emotional journey and theological journey that led me here. And now, through that and just being open to life and practicing open to life has like changed my values. It's changed, it almost feels like it changed my personality. It changed like how I envision my future. Because even though it took me a while to conceive a baby, through all that time, the Lord was like working in my heart to make me fully believe that children are never the problem and they're not to be delayed or discarded. And He made me to have, like, be a giver of life. And that changes everything. And it turned me from just like, um, kind of just like a career woman to somebody that gets to like be a life giver in my work as well as like my role at home. And I just love it. I love it so much. But I think that I should go ahead and move into like from the journey of conceiving, those getting to the point where I was like, oh, wow, is something wrong? This is not normal. So I think it was like 6 months, a year. And I knew in the back of my mind that like, you're not even really counted as an infertility patient. Maybe reasonable minds and doctors disagree on this, but I had heard like 12 months of trying. And so I decided to not really be worried about it. And yet I started the process of getting in with a doctor, but he prescribed like a large series of tests. Like, okay, here's our protocol. We're going to start you with, you have to take a blood test every, like basically a series of 4 blood tests within like certain days, like within 2 weeks of one of your cycles. It kind of worked out to where I had to go every other day for a little while. And I was just like, I don't know that I am that worried about it. I think I want to just like keep on trying and vibing. And then I think a year and 3 months came along. And then I was like, okay, the ignorance has been stamped out of me. I need to do something about this. So this past March, I believe, is whenever thanks to the very gracious pep talk of one of their nurses at the office, she was like, it's not that big a deal, honey, you're going to do this. I did the same thing. I felt that way, but I went through this whole process, ended up spotting the reason for my infertility. I got a surgery and I ended up getting pregnant the very next month. And I got to see her again, I guess last month for one of my prenatal visits, or prenatal visits. And I said, Samantha, like your pep talk was the thing that got me into gear and like made me stop just lazily trying to rely on luck and like really take ownership over what I could do to participate with God in this. And her story and my story ended up being identical. I'll get to that. But so I did all the blood tests and I'm so grateful I did because now I kind of believe, whoa, if you are trying to get pregnant without at a minimum testing your progesterone levels, that's wild. That's kind of scary because low progesterone is a contributing factor to miscarriage. And so they identified that I had low progesterone, and that made me so grateful to know that, like, when I have a baby, first off, it increases the chances of implantation of the fertilized egg and that it stays implanted and that it lives. And I just felt so grateful. But then, that wasn't enough. They also confirmed that they needed to confirm that I was actually ovulating. And then they did. And so I had to go through some timed ultrasounds for that. Then I still wasn't getting pregnant. So they did a fallopian tube HSG test. HSG test. It has a long name for what? Hysteroscalpingogram. Goodness, test where basically they do an X-ray to insert uh, what's it called? Contrast dye into your fallopian tubes to see if either of them are blocked. You have two, Lord willing. Either of them are blocked, because that would stop the egg from being released. And as they did, that was the test that revealed the cause of my infertility. I had a blockage, a polyp. I was potentially born with it. It was either a polyp, or if I was born with it, I guess it would be called a septum, in my upper cervix. So absolutely, and I saw this on the test. I was watching the test and the dye be completely unable to go past my cervix. And the uh, test tech and I and my husband were all looking at the test or the screen, and we're like, wow, here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the cause for why I have not been able to get pregnant. And so talked with my doctor about that, and he got me very quickly scheduled for a surgery that for many people is not a big deal. I think that it's like a 30-minute surgery where they go in and they just cut out the blockage. He also did decide, though, since I had symptoms that could be an indicator of endometriosis or yeah, I don't think I had symptoms. I might have had symptoms for PCOS, but I'm not sure. But since that was a risk, he asked me and also suggested if I wanted to do the more extensive surgery while I was under. I think it's called a laparoscopy, or I think I also did a myomectomy to remove the blockage. But the laparoscopy, I think that this is like a lot more celebrities are talking about this now, as endometriosis, I hope, is getting more awareness. But yeah, he cut me up. I have robotic incisions like in 3 places in my abdomen and my um, belly button now. It was a pretty extensive surgery. Um, and they found that I had stage 3 endometriosis. I personally don't believe, and I don't think that my doctor does either, that that was the cause of my infertility. It was the more obvious blockage, but it is helping me overall in life, in my reproductive system, to have that removed. I hear that some people have been told by their doctors that just because they have endometriosis that they can't get pregnant. That's not true. It is not true. Okay. If all your parts are there and you don't have an internal condom like I did, then you're able to have other things looked at and restored to help you eventually have a baby. I don't think that just because you have that, you can't. Some people are told some really wild things. So I just want to encourage you. But yeah, after I got that surgery this summer, and that was like a whole thing. Of course, I was throughout the process exhausted at various points, wondering why I was made this way. But most of the time, I was just really, really grateful that I didn't have to carry the grief and the wondering of unexplained infertility. I think that's one of the saddest things, there's plenty of others, that you could be told by a doctor, that you have unexplained infertility, there's no answer for you, and I guess you should just give up and move to IVF. That was not something that my husband and I were going to do, because of the conviction that it discards life, even if it is like a fertilized egg. Life begins there, not just at implantation. And so, I mean, that was another thing for me to work through. Wow, if all this other stuff doesn't work, that's the end for me. I'm not going to explore IVF, but I just it helped so much to have a doctor throughout the process that always gave me a next step. Don't worry, we could look into this next. We could look into this next. And that is not going to be something that you experience with a lot of doctors. I can't say for sure, but from what I've been hearing, I do not think that if you go into a traditional fertility clinic that also offers um, IVF as well as IUI and other things. If you're in this world, you know what those things mean. Then they have a financial incentive to escalate you to the next intervention. Whereas my doctor is not going to make nearly as much on my restorative laparoscopy surgery as much as IVF rounds. He was doing that because they're a Catholic clinic that uses NaPro technology. You don't have to go to a Catholic clinic, but go to one that uses NaPro, NaPro technology. If you look that up, there's like directories of doctors that use this. Those are the ones that are incentivized to explore way more tests than I believe will be available to you at an IVF clinic, because they're incentivized to just restore your natural infertility and not accept unexplained infertility as a thing that they could tell their patients they have. Unexplained infertility is more so undiagnosed infertility, which just means you have not been offered the next step test by your provider. Sometimes this even goes as far as unexplained infertility is really like maybe you had a C-section before, and there is like a lip in your scar that is causing excess blood inflammation in an inflamed state that's stopping future implantation. And some people have like a clearing out surgery to smooth out that scar, which again, more like restorative fertility clinics that use NaPro technology are going to be more of an advocate for believing that you have a body that will, if it doesn't currently work, it will work. It will work. And that was just so redemptive. That was like truly redemptive. And furthermore, because I went to a Catholic clinic that uh, it was so funny. They made some comments sometimes, and I had to tell them I'm Protestant, but it was still such a delightful experience. And but because I went there, they have a religious exemption from prescribing hormonal birth control, performing abortions, as well as um, uh, facilitating IVF. And so, because of that, in order to still have a success rate at their clinic, they are some of the most inventive freaking people to like believe that your fertility gets restored. And that was so encouraging to me throughout the process. It changed everything. And I think it is like a huge difference between my journey and what some other people might be experiencing, because like just the care that I'm so grateful that I got. So that's kind of the journey to conceiving. And to wrap it up, like after I had that surgery, to my complete shock, I had the first cycle after the surgery, I was still healing. And so didn't necessarily try. And then the second cycle, so this is like the first cycle that I really tried. I didn't even think that I got like the timing perfectly correct. And so I wasn't expecting um, that I was pregnant. And I also just had kind of gotten desensitized of like so many no's over all this time that I just stopped expecting to be pregnant. And I was like, okay, it'll be a pleasant surprise one day. And my pleasant surprise came at, I guess it was at the very end of this past September. And the shock on my face, I kept on thinking, like, as I watched all these videos about like um people finally finding out they're pregnant after an infertility journey, some people like cry, they call out to Jesus, like they're just so happy. Me, I I was so shocked. I was literally just taking the pregnancy test to get it over with and see if I could change my insurance to a like a crowd health sharing company. I was taking it because I didn't think I was pregnant, but I wanted to confirm, and I was going to switch to that insurance, but they don't cover pregnancies unless you get pregnant after being a member for 300 days. And so basically I wouldn't have been able to try for 2 cycles. The first 2 cycles of being on that new insurance. And so I told the rep that I was talking with about this insurance option or health sharing option. I was like, listen, I don't think I'm pregnant, but today is like the day I'm supposed to get my period. I'll go take a test tonight and I'll tell you tomorrow when I'm ready to sign up for this new insurance. And because she was such a homie, the people at Crowd Health are so nice. I love talking to them. And so I go home, I eat dinner, I forget that I'm even supposed to be taking this test. I also know that tests are more accurate if they're done in the morning in your first toilet time. But since it was supposed to be the day of my missed period, I was like, it'll probably work. And which it should, by the way. And I am just like, I take the test, I pee on it, I am brushing my teeth, and I am not thinking a single thing. I'm not like, wow, I wonder if I am pregnant. I like forgot about it. And so when I turned towards the part of the bathroom where the test was sitting that has my trash can next to it, just to like take out one of my contacts and throw it away, it's like a daily contact, I turned around, and from my vantage point, which is several feet away, I looked down and I had like a super zoom moment onto that second line, and it stood out clear as day. And I was so shocked. I was so I have never been more shocked, hands down, without question, in my entire life, that I stood there and my mouth was completely open like a cartoon, and I was actually like full body frozen, and I started shaking, but I could not make a noise. My Once I was able to start moving, I picked up the pregnancy test box. Even though I had taken this again for almost 2 years, I was doubting that I read the instructions right. So I read the instructions again, because for a moment I was like, 2 lines must mean I'm not pregnant. 2 lines must mean I'm not pregnant, because it still was like bouncing off my brain. And I once the instructions reminded me that it really does mean that you're pregnant, and the line was so strong, I just I tried to like fumble and like film a video of like my reaction, because I don't know, I just wanted it as like a keepsake. And I was so frazzled that I couldn't press the buttons on my phone, and I thought I turned on a video, but later I found out I definitely didn't, and I was just clicking random buttons. That is how completely out of body experience shocked I was. So then I was like, oh, I always dreamed of this moment, having like a cute pregnancy announcement. Like, how should I tell Kevin? And I know that downstairs he's playing video games with his boys. Like, he has this little headset on, and he doesn't always get to do that. But like, work has been really, like, really, really intense for him. He's working like 6 or 7 days a week right now, and I just didn't want to disrupt like this rest that he got with his friends. um, but I was like, you know what? I think that I felt kind of like, oh, when's the best time to like totally interrupt someone with news that will absolutely stop all of their activities? I feel like I need to tell him tonight, but then we're not really going to be able to sleep. But I don't want to tell him tomorrow before work, because then he's not really going to be able to like focus on work. And then like I'm going to be alone with my thoughts. Blah, blah, blah. So I just, still shaking, I like climb up to our little office loft area, and I like tear off a piece of note paper, and I write in like the shakiest handwriting. I write, "You're gonna be a dad, or you're gonna be like a great daddy," I think is what I said. And I wrapped my still wet pee test in it, and I folded it up, and I walked downstairs like a zombie, and I was like, how am I gonna, I don't know like how to like broach this news. And so I decided to act extremely concerned, and I go, I don't know, it's just how it came out. I was like not totally there. I go, Kevin, can can you can you look at this? And he's like, 1 second. So he takes off his little headset, and they're like in the middle of a battle. And he opens the piece of paper, and he has the exact same reaction as me. Not able to speak, completely shocked. Like, if you just looked at screenshots of our faces, you would be like, are they even happy? The answer is, we didn't know what our faces were doing. We were just like so overwhelmed. So we just, I'm sorry, that was not cute for me to scream into the mic, but yeah, so he just got up, and we just like hugged each other and held each other as our breathing was like raggedy, like in and out, and we just didn't really say anything. And I hear his friends through the headset go, Kevin, 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 and his character is dying and they lose the battle, and he just goes, sorry guys, I have to go. And we just stayed up so late that night, not able to sleep, just like processing the news and wondering how, like, all the ways that our life was now going to change. And some people say that it's so weird when you find out that you're pregnant that it feels like everything changes, but nothing does, because you might not be feeling symptoms like it's 9 or 10 months away that you're gonna have that baby, most likely, and you're like, why does it feel like everything in my life has changed now, but tomorrow I have to show up to work and act normal? And so we just had such a fun time. It was very, very special. But that week was like light on sleep. And it also feels so vulnerable in the first trimester. Some people might resonate with this, to be excited, because I, again, wanted to practice humility of like every single day is a gift, nothing is guaranteed. Um, I don't know what the future holds. I say Lord willing a lot more now than I did like earlier in life, because I just realize more and more like it really is just Lord willing, um that the future will go as you think. But I am so grateful now to be into the second trimester, and it's just so amazing to me every single um week that she gets another week bigger. It's just been so fun to have a little tradition with Kevin of like opening ChatGPT or one of the like apps about pregnancy and be like, she's an olive this week. She's um a well, banana. And it's just so, last week she was a bunch of asparagus, which cracked me up. It's just, I was thinking of the bunch of asparagus from VeggieTales, which usually act as backup singers in their songs, which are bangers. Um, and yeah, I'm just so grateful. So yeah, it is a girl. I found out through my doctor offered genetic testing, which we did not do for the. Some couples do it because if their child has a abnormality, they intend on terminating that child's life. That wasn't ours, but we our intention, but we did do it just because my doctor did show that there was like really redeemable reasons to do it. That there are, by the grace of God, uh, in utero treatments that they could do for some genetic conditions to actually like help the baby. I actually know somebody who their baby was the very first baby that was operated on in utero for a severe case of spina bifida, and she was born healthily. And so took advantage of that, and through the process learned that it's a girl. And I'm so shocked. I really thought it was a boy. But thank you for listening to my rambling. That is my journey of conceiving. You heard through that the things that did work were um, going to a fertility doctor that uses NaPro technology. Particularly, it's a special backup, like you heard me say, if they're a Catholic clinic, so you know that because of their convictions, they really are completely beholden to just restoring your natural fertility, um, rather than pushing you to expensive and uh, some would say, I guess including me, ethically compromising things like IVF. Um, and that really, really helped me. What didn't help me, I just want to save you some dollars and heartaches, was all the crap that Instagram ads pushed my way. So fertility teas like Wisdom of the Womb gave me some ads, and like all the testimonies were like, I've been waiting for 10 years and this is the first or second cycle that I was just using these teas. I finally got pregnant. You want to know what happened to me when I took those teas? First off, the money really adds up. I also just took so many different vitamins. Like, oh, it's like some people would say like it's a vaginal microbiome issue. I got ads for that. It's like oh, you should just like restore your gut health and reduce inflammation. Buy the colostrum, buy the blah, 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 like buy so many different things. When in reality, I would not have gotten pregnant if it were not for Western medicine, surgical removing of a blockage. And after that happened, it turns out I got pregnant when I was still extremely inflamed, and a week, like literally the week that I conceived, I was more stressed than ever because that happened to be like a very, very intense week with work and life. And Kevin and I had quite an intense summer with a lot of life things that happened, and him losing his job and a lot of things happening with me. And I had like emergency room visits and that were unrelated to fertility. It was just like a totally different health issue. And so I just, okay, this is probably the least Christ-like moment of this episode, and I apologize in advance. But in my flesh, I just want to tell every single person who told me, oh, you know, it happens when you stop trying. It happens when you go on vacation and you're not stressed. I want to tell you to stuff it. I got pregnant when I was extremely inflamed from my surgery, my major surgery throughout my abdomen. I was still so inflamed and I was incredibly emotionally stressed. I mean, I did not necessarily expect to get pregnant, so but that also stopped like a long time ago, so I wouldn't say like that was the factor that uh oh, I technically like stopped trying. No, I was still like timing my cycle and like doing all the things. So for every person that has suffered under the very low key emotional abuse of people just assuming that you're not pregnant yet because you're stressed, that is so annoying, and I'm sorry. You likely have a real medical reason for not being pregnant yet that I pray that you get the support to address. You're not crazy, and your lack of a pregnancy is not necessarily just your fault because you can't manage your emotions. That is so offensive. If you are someone that has like I guess uh furthered those stories, please stop, because you might be talking to someone who actually has a medical issue that needs to be addressed by a real doctor. End of story. But seriously, it like the amount of people that came up to me and just were like, it happens when you stop trying. It happens when you go on vacation. You must be stressed. You need to stop caring about your fertility, basically, is what they were saying, because it's like they were like subconsciously criticizing me for tracking, moderating, trying to improve, and devote energy to my fertility journey. And apparently that makes you not pregnant because you're stressing about it. Please stop. That makes me want to slap you in the face. Sorry. It's so hilarious. I'm just sitting alone in my house, like rage. Raging at my mic. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But yeah, so the you know what's so crazy is the vitamins didn't necessarily help and just cost a lot of money. I did also work with a functional medicine practitioner that I believe helped in some ways, but unfortunately prescribed me a vitamin B supplement that did not agree with my system at all and caused 2 emergency room visits in which the hospital staff thought I had MS or Guillain-Barré syndrome. Yeah, wow, that was really, really. And then I got a spinal tap that caused a spinal fluid leak that caused me to not be able to stand up without having a migraine or throwing up. And I had to lay down until I went back to the ER. And then the blood patch procedure went so badly, I like completely passed out and like had a seizure, like what are those things called? Vasovagal, passed out backwards into the doctor while he had the needle in my back. This is another reason I don't really want to get an epidural, and I'm just doing birth in the woods vibes. Um, and I was like, wow, okay, so that path also ultimately was like really hard. Then I also did a parasite cleanse that was like totally fine. I actually would recommend people do that, but I don't think it had anything to do with my pregnancy. And the teas, by the way, the wisdom of the womb teas, the 2 cycles that I was taking those teas, drinking them every single day, were the worst periods of my life. I literally had to pull over my car. I was in the car when my cycle had started. And I threw up and almost passed out in a public park and stumbled into a porta potty. And it was the worst period of my life. And a similar one happened the next cycle until I like emailed their support team. I was like, is this normal? This has never happened. And the only thing I'm doing differently is drinking your teas. And they said, you're clearing excess chi from your womb. And I was like, you know what? I'm pretty crunchy and I love homeopathic remedies, but I think my doctors got me on this one. I think my doctors got me. So, those are some of the cuckoo things that I tried, and I do not believe that they worked and what ultimately worked. I hope that encouraged you and hopefully stops you from falling into some Instagram honey traps. Um, and what helped me, moving on into this next section of what helped me enjoy my waiting season, you heard me say starting before I was ready, per se. I think God worked through that. I also would say, because it's kind of hard, like when you are, some couples decide to use contraceptives, and then when they wait until like everything in their life is perfect, they're basically emotionally ready to have a baby like right that instant. In some cases, I'm not pretending to know your life. Um, but it could take a while. And then also, once you're pregnant, you still basically have to wait almost a year to meet them. And so I think that it did help me to just realize that like ready is a lie. If you're married and you have a loving husband, like go for it. I don't know your life, and I apologize if any of that comes off as disrespectful to your situation. God knows your name. God knows your time in history. He knows who you are. Pray it out with him. Um, I also would say one thing that helped me enjoy my waiting season was just deciding that I was not going to be miserable while I waited. My life, I decided, was about other things than conceiving. Um, and one thing that helped me really firmly decide that was I had people in my life that I saw get pregnant right away, even after they were on like hormonal birth control, that it could take 9 to 18 months to regulate your cycle after that and get pregnant. Like, even they beat the odds and like got pregnant right away. And I had multiple friends at church that was the case. But I also was so grateful that I had another friend that wasn't her story, and we're best friends and at church. So I like got to see her through the whole experience, and she was so kind and gracious to open up to me throughout her journey of it taking 18 months to conceive. And she shared like how hard that was, especially since like others it just seemed so easy. And I think because she went before me, like her pain was not in vain. Like it really, really just showed me like, hey, look, it could take a while, and God sees all your tears and he uses them for some reason and some way, but you could still have your baby. And her baby is like a year old now and just like such an amazing girl. And God turned her tears into joy. And so just decided, I guess, to compare myself to the, oh, it could take a while examples and still work out, rather than the, oh, others got pregnant right away, like within 2 weeks as a 35-year-old, like is another chick in my life. I decided to just not assume that was going to be me, because it kind of just guarded my heart. Um, and it's not like a lack of faith. I think it was more just like a willingness for it to take however long it took. I'm also trying to practice that as I am preparing for birth, of like, I'm not just like imploring God to like give me a fast, pain-free birth. I'm like, he knows my baby and how she wants to come out, and he also knows like what story arc he wants to take me through in that labor. And so I'm really just asking for surrender, hit grace to help me to surrender to whatever it is. That's my personal conviction. You could totally handle it a different way, but I just decided to like soften and be like, I'm not going to freak out if it takes a while. And I also saw that like you could cry a lot during that time, or you could enjoy your life during that time, and you'll probably still get a baby either way. And so I just did cry sometimes, but overall decided that I don't know, like maybe that was just God's grace. Like I wasn't gonna make my entire life about conceiving and like make a big deal out of the 2 week wait every cycle. I was just gonna like go on with my life as best as possible, and that just does take like grace from the Lord as well. It's not like I'm the strongest mental person of all time. Um, I would say one thing that really helped that 2 week wait though is something that my husband Kevin came up with. He said every single day of the month that it's supposed to be the date of your period. When we find out if it's a positive pregnancy test or your period, either way, we are going to celebrate. And so every month he called it my pee party. My pee party, because every single month, no matter what, he either took me on a nice date and we had a fun cocktail and all that stuff if I got my period. And also, we would celebrate together in another way, not with a cocktail, if I was pregnant. And he just like injected such joy and light into that experience that like made me laugh a lot. So every month we would have our pee party and we just thought it was freaking hilarious. And I know that we'll do that again as the Lord, I pray, opens my womb for future children. So pee parties are a total slay. Highly recommend. And as a part of that, it personally did help me to not. This is going to sound crazy. This is going to sound so crazy. But if you read Emily Oster's book, Expecting Better, she's an economist that brings statistical analysis to the do's and don'ts of what you're told to do and don't do in pregnancy and conception and childbirth. And you could read that book for like a very in-depth analysis of why did we come to different recommendations on alcohol and pregnancy in Europe, Australia, like other countries versus America, and what should you actually be concerned about? And the fact of the matter is that it is the effects of like a drink, especially a drink, um, really throughout your pregnancy, even early on, is so unlikely to cause fetal alcohol syndrome. If you binge drink, which is 4 drinks in 1 hour, I'm pretty sure, or is it 4 drinks in 2 hours? I can't remember. You are not, your body isn't processing. It has too much alcohol to process, so it goes into the uterine wall and it goes to your baby. But if you're having one drink slowly, bro, that's not going to do anything. It's not going to do anything. And so I didn't, Lord willing, I didn't do that recklessly, but it helped me because I was like going into my fertility journey after like a year. I was like, what am I just going to spend the next like indefinite years of my life like never being able to go to a happy hour and like have my favorite cocktail with my husband? Like it fed into like holding my breath for those 2 weeks every single month, and I just chose not to do it. And I'm really glad because like looking back at all those months and the parties I would have like just felt awkward at and all that stuff, you do literally whatever you want to do. But after I looked at the evidence, I like really did not feel like I didn't have a problem with it. And I didn't. I chose not to drink once I found out I was pregnant. But like in those first 2 weeks, when there's most likely not even a baby in there, I'm just so glad that it kind of helped me just like go on with my life. Again, choosing not to be reckless and never virgin to excess, but honestly, that's just like from girl to girl. That kind of helped me not make a huge deal out of my waiting or adjusting like other behaviors. I kind of just pretended I wasn't, to be honest. So, however, I did take a prenatal like my entire preconception journey because one thing that is important is before you even know you're pregnant, you need to have sufficient folate levels to help reduce neural tube defects, including spina bifida and other things. And so it really, really, really is beneficial to take a high quality prenatal 3 or preferably 6 months before you even start to conceive, try to conceive. So I was doing that. take it or leave it. I'm not a doctor. This isn't medical advice. You should do whatever you want to do. So the other thing that helped me is having a doctor that always gave me a next step for something that we could explore. He never was like, oh, this is the end of the road. We can't do anything. Too bad. Bummer. And then obviously also testing my husband for male factor infertility. Once we did that and realized I was the problem, it helped focus on what I should do next. I also was really benefited by fully believing I would eventually have kids. It just takes time, prayer, and a solutions mindset. Like I was like, if I have at least one ovary and a uterus, I maybe it's ignorant. I was like, I can do this. The Lord can put a kid in there. He can put a kid in there even if you don't have a uterus, to be honest. I think he could just create one. But that just helped me. And then just knowing that God works so beautifully through infertility stories like that of Hannah, Sarah, Rachel in the Bible, it made me feel even more special as I waited. Like, wow, this child is going to be so even more special to me. Maybe that's faulty thinking, but it encouraged me in my waiting. This kid is going to be even more special to me. Like once the day finally comes, I'm just going to know even more fully how much of a miracle this is. I'm going to even more fully not take this for granted. And I really appreciated that. So that is my story. I apologize for any of this that has been too chatty, but it's kind of intimidating to share about all these things, and it feels impossible to share perfectly about something so personal and share it in a way, especially the things that God convicted me on. It's hard to share these things outside of like a personal conversation where I know you and like the Holy Spirit is sharing with me what to say and not say. So I just do pray that the Lord gives you conviction and a movement in your heart, as I definitely had to have as I was listening to other people's advice on the internet of like what to pick up and what to not. And I just really trust that the Lord is going to help you to do that. I'm just one person over here that the Lord is using through my imperfect means. And I am so grateful that He's granted me a child. And I pray that she continues to grow and have just an amazing life of glorifying God and enjoying Him forever. If it is helpful, I just want to share the maternity leave plan that I have and the future of the called career. It's really short and simple. Nothing's changing. So, Lord willing, I will take a 6-week maternity leave starting whenever she comes around June this summer. And in the meantime, Audrey is fully, she handles most of everything anyway. So it's not really that different at all from when I took a 5-week sabbatical around my wedding 2 years ago. So there's going to be uninterrupted service and support to all of our clients. And after those 6 weeks, I'll continue on what has already been for quite some time. Like I could handle everything on a part-time basis here. So it's kind of business as usual. Thank you, Jesus, that you gave me this job. Thank you, Jesus, that you gave me the flexibility to be able to imagine being a very present mom. I pray that He helps me with all that, but I still feel very, very devoted to the called career. And while a lot is changing for me over here, I've prayed about it and just really feel like there is not a reason to diminish my contribution or continuation to our mission here. So we'll see what happens in the future, but yeah, we're still gonna go strong with the Lord's help. And I just really pray that this blessed you. Please feel free to reach out if there's anything in particular that you want prayer for, or if there's anything in my story that encouraged or helped you in particular. I'll just would really love to hear back from you guys, because I know that each of you listening must be for some sort of reason. And I'm just really hopeful and encouraged that you listen to this because you care about hopefully being a mom or a dad. And that is such a beautiful thing that is aligned with God's design for this life. So I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. And thank you for being gracious with me as I stumble through sharing something so personal. All right. I'll talk to you next week as we go back to our regularly scheduled programming. Bye. Thanks for listening to today's episode. To get an even more meaningful head start into your calling, head to thecalledcareer.com, where my fellow career coach Audrey and I have created a whole suite of free resources and tools to help you get clear and get a job today. For those who are definitely ready to land a job or start a business in the next 6 to 12 months, we're here to help you biblically and practically discern your calling through coaching, reflection, and deep market research. Identify the job that's aligned with it, even if you currently have no idea what you want. Rebrand your resume and LinkedIn to translate your background to appeal to your future boss. P.S. We take this off your plate and do this for you. Also, we'll teach you how to land referrals and get attention from leadership through networking. Again, if that makes you nervous, we have these emails and LinkedIn messages literally written for you so you don't have to sweat. We're also here to give you unlimited interview practice so you're prepared to address every elephant in the room and knock selling yourself out of the park. Then we'll round out with helping you negotiate your salary so you land thousands more. Just so you know, recent clients have gotten $8,000 to $50,000 salary increases, even though they were totally non-traditional candidates. That's because we specialize in helping non-traditional career pivoters land jobs they're ecstatic to serve in. It takes work, but we're here to see you through until the end, when we're celebrating that day that you send me an email in all caps and you say, Kelsey, I got the job. Then you could be on the podcast. But I'll be here until then, keeping you accountable and encouraged by meeting with you literally until you land the job you want, even if that's up to 6 months from now within our program. Apply to join at thecalledcareer.com, and I'll see you next week here at Answer the Call. Bye for now.